Perhaps we'll get some more people here shortly. My name's Hank Guess. I'm on the City Council Ward 4. Mr. Berry is actually going to be our person that's going to be telling you about Inspiring Spaces, our city manager. We just got word for him. He's coming from a meeting at the chamber, and I think he's maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes away yet, but he just wanted to let everybody know that he is on the way and that he apologizes for being late, but he was held a little bit there, so it'll be maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes before he gets here and we get started. So hopefully between now and then we'll have some more folks show up, so y'all just make yourselves at home and he'll be here shortly.
I know some other people are planning to be here.
Good.
Yeah, they just haven't gotten here.
Good. Yeah. So you can start writing down your questions for us.
What time will we be out?
Probably around an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got enough meetings, so I know I'll
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you have to leave, you have to leave. Hello, sir.
Hey, yeah.
So is this? I was at the city council meeting last week when they
did the
presented
presentation.
the same thing.
Well, I don't know if it'll be exactly the same. It'll probably be similar. I don't know. I mean, obviously, probably every time he does it, it's a little bit different. I'm sure he puts a little bit, different things into it. But there'll be some of the same similarities. The main purpose, of course, is trying to get it out to all different communities and all different areas of the city. And so we're trying to have this type of meeting anywhere anybody will let us come and speak. Yeah. If you've got an organization or a community club or something like that that'll allow it, then we'll come and speak. I know he's been to Rotary. Some of the assistant city managers have been around to some different functions, and so the next month or so, this is going to be a hot topic at a lot of meetings you go to.
Was this the presentation that was before the city council meeting that people were talking about at the city council?
Probably. So it's like I was telling you, it's similar. Similar. This one may be more detailed.
I think this focuses a little bit more on the bond referendum and some information about the bond referendum.
Okay.
So we're down the house in the morning.
Brad, you doing all right? Good to see you, sir. And if he doesn't show up, we'll just have to have church here in a minute. We got enough. We got enough to have church. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. We'll have a cowbell service like we do every once in a while. My preacher he'll look out in the audience and there'll be like 6 preachers out there, and he'll do a cowbell where they all got unexpected. They got 10 minutes, and then he rings the cowbell. He does a cowbell service.
That's too much time.
We're gonna have a cowbell service.
We've been here all day. Every preacher's riding.
He gives them 10 minutes and they got to be ready.
I am so sorry. I apologize. I was down in Newton with the county commissioners, and when they've invited you to their meeting, it's hard to get up and walk out on them. So I had to keep trying. Anyway, but Reverend Roberts has already heard this presentation. 7 o'clock in the morning a couple weeks ago, so I was figuring you just take it over and run it.
Well, I don't know the issue.
Or we can tag team it.
Okay. My part is very exciting. I'm excited about what I saw. I'm happy about what's going forward. Quite sure folks will have a lot of questions, but it is very impressive about what they're trying to do. That's my part. You got to explain it.
All right, great. Perfect. Well, thanks for coming this evening. Appreciate your time. And as it says up there, basically we've been going around the city explaining to our citizens, our residents, really the big initiative that the City Council and the City of Hickory is embarking on. And we start kind of where we are today. This chart is very stark in that these are job losses in the state of North Carolina since the year 2000. And we all understand we've lost jobs in the Hickory MSA, and MSA means Metropolitan Statistical Area, okay? So that means for us, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, and Alexander County. So our neighboring, what we used to call the uniform back in the day. But you may not have realized that we are at the bottom of the heap in terms of having lost the most jobs in the state of North Carolina in the last 14 years. Over 45,000 jobs lost. That's disconcerting, but this slide, which kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, may be even more concerning. Now, there are demographic things that we're dealing with. I mean, we've got the baby boomers, right? We all understand that the population as a whole in this country is aging. And that's kind of what we're seeing down here. It's pretty natural. But what's worrisome is right here, is that in this key group of folks in our community, ages 20 to 44, we're losing them. And obviously a big piece of that is the jobs. If you've lost your job, you know, you can only stay around for so long before you got to go find work somewhere. Those are important people to us because they create jobs, they buy homes, they're active in the community on boards and commissions and clubs, and they coach our kids in the rec programs. I mean, they have children. You know, they're an important part of the community that when a community starts losing them, you start getting on this downward spiral for your entire community when you don't have that next generation coming up. So that may be the single most disconcerting slide in terms of our reality, where we are today. Well, the leaders in the community, and you all certainly are part of that and have been part of that, didn't want to take that lying down. They said, we need an economic competitiveness plan. Engaged the Southern Growth Policies Board of about 3 years ago. These were the funding partners, so you can see it's a pretty wide range of folks who said, hey, we got to look at how do we change what's going on in our community. And that plan ultimately was called Innovate Catawba, Economic Transformation Through Innovation. Who's heard Innovate Catawba? Has anybody heard that term? Okay, some of you all have. I know some of you all have been involved in that planning process as well. And as you can see, Hickory was at the table and a funding partner in that. Now, meanwhile, the City of Hickory has been involved for the last few years in an Inspiring Spaces initiative. Who's heard of that one? Okay. Chief, you heard of that?
I've heard of that.
And in Inspiring Spaces, many of you all have been involved in that. We've had over 500 city residents engaged in helping us understand how do we move the community forward, how do we become more attractive to 20 to 44-year-olds. Innovate Catawba, I'm going to go through a little bit more about what it's about, but it was similar in that it was a little more business focused. I think ours was a little more community focused, but over 250 business leaders were involved in that process. So Innovate Catawba really said, you know, there's 6 very important areas. Inspiring, obviously, there's the link with some of the things we were working on. Reinventing, meaning we got all these old buildings. What are we going to do with all these old buildings all over Catawba County? Right, all of our old furniture, our old hosiery plants. What are we going to do to build new places for jobs to come? What are we going to do to help entrepreneurs continue to grow their businesses here at home? Workforce is really important. You know, we actually have vacant jobs in Hickory right now that can't be filled because we can't find machinists or we can't find a welder, we can't find somebody trained to do that specific job. So matching up our workforce and having CVCC and other folks training people to take jobs that are here and jobs we hope to bring here is really key. And then leading, just overall as a community, working together to chart the course forward, to move forward as a community. So you kind of bring our plan with Inspiring Spaces together with Innovate Catawba, and the mayor has kind of dubbed it Innovate Hickory, putting them together. And we felt like at the city that we had 3 major areas that we should be focused on and leading in, and that's inspiring, reinventing, and building. And we're going to talk about that. And of course the whole focus is back to our trend of how do we change this job and population loss, how do we go from losing to growing. So what you're going to hear now is really the results of the 500 residents, the surveys, 3 or 4 years worth of work, consultants. City Council appointed a committee of 15 people, residents of the city, to really start taking all of this and start whittling it down. Start bringing it down to, okay, you know, what are the top things that the city needs to focus on to change these trends? And one of the things they have come up with and come back with is water. is the waterfront opportunity to develop. You know, we've got this great river and this great lake, and when City Council went and looked at other neighboring communities to see what they had, many of them used their water in their downtown area to be an attractive place to have shopping and residential and other things, keep their city vibrant. We had, you know, we've always known we had a lake, but it's just been high-end residential development out there, right? $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 homes and a boat slip and stuff, but never really the opportunity for the broader community to take advantage of the water. Well, we said, well, there's an opportunity. Kind of simultaneous to this, a gentleman, a business leader in the community named Robert Lackey's wife, Deidre, passed away unexpectedly. And he literally called the city up one day and he said, what do I need to do to build a mausoleum in her honor at Oakwood Cemetery? And Andrea Surratt, many of you know her, assistant city manager, she literally took that phone call and she said, Mr. Lackey, instead of doing that, what would you think about doing something that may have broader benefit to the whole community? So she really was the one I get credit for kind of planting that seed with Mr. Lackey. So ultimately, Mr. Lackey is in the process of planning and making a donation to the community of between $3 and $5 million, completely renovating Bud Geithner Park. Now, y'all know where Bud Geithner is? I'll show it to you on a map in a minute. It's a waterfront opportunity, but it's in bad shape. I mean, we really haven't made investments as a city out there other than our greenway trails in a number of years. And the building that sits out there, I like to call it Mac's Hut. Because when Mac McLeod, our longtime Parks and Rec director, first came to Hickory as a kid straight out of college, he lived there in the basement in a little apartment. I mean, it's, you know, it's been around a long time. But the plan is to turn that into an event space that would be open to the community and be able to host receptions and events there. So we got to piggybacking off of that, and the committee, I can say we, it's really the committee's work, said, you know, what if we developed a river walk that connected what the Lackey family is going to give to the community over to the baseball stadium, and then what if around the baseball stadium we could develop the next Catawba Valley Boulevard? All right, so let me pause there for a second. In 1987, and I'll come to the investments in a minute, but in 1987, man, I'm looking around the room here. There wasn't that many of y'all here in 1987. Who was here in 1987 when it was Catawba Valley Boulevard? Okay. I worked for the county at the time, and I remember reading in the paper, and I thought, what is the city doing? They're crazy. There's nothing out there. Because you had the mall, and then you had nothing. You had country. And I just remember thinking, that's a boondoggle. Well, it was not, is it? The city partnered with DOT, built Catawba Valley Boulevard, and we'll come to in a minute the type of investment that's out there. I think sometimes when people hear us talk about, you know, development of the next shopping opportunities and the next residential opportunities on the water, they could have the same reaction I did. What? That's out in the middle of nowhere. How's that ever going to happen? But that's exactly what we've seen in other communities. It piggybacks on the city's already made an investment in the baseball stadium. We spent about $1.4 million. Hickory Baseball, Don Beaver, put about $1 million of his money into the baseball stadium, which you all own if you live in the city. The stadium is owned by the city, leased by the baseball team. Here's the map I was mentioning. So Bud Geithner Park is right up here. Here's Highway 321. Just orient you a little bit. Here's the airport. So this is Caldwell County. MDI sits up here. Of course, this is the river where it really starts becoming the lake. It starts broadening out right through here. I'd still kind of call it the river through here. So there's Bud Geithner, 321. We really recognize, wow, you know, if we made some public investment that let people move, and I've started calling it a river walk, along this water, have public access to the water, go underneath the 321 bridge, look at all this opportunity for private companies to spend their money and to build the next Catawba Valley Boulevard right off of the baseball stadium. Now I know some of y'all have probably been to downtowns. Durham is a great example of a downtown where you've got a baseball stadium, you've got the old tobacco warehouse that's been developed. You know, we met with Mayor Bell, who is really a visionary. City Council met with him a year ago in downtown Durham, and Mayor Bell really inspired us in terms of what he did with his political capital in Durham to say, you know what, we're not going to let Durham just go down the drain. It had been a pretty rough place. I remember going to some meetings in downtown Durham when I first started my career in the early 90s, and there was nothing going on down there. And frankly, you didn't want to be around there after dark. Now it's a great happening place. We feel like we can't bring our baseball stadium to downtown, but what if we brought downtown out to the baseball stadium? And you know, some people give me a little bit of a hard time and they say, well, where's the jobs in that? Well, there's jobs on Catawba Valley Boulevard, a lot of jobs on Catawba Valley Boulevard. And people will kind of, you know, say, well, yeah, but those are service jobs. Yeah, service jobs are very important to our economy. Very important to our economy. The theater is important to our economy. It, you know, employs a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of people going through school, a lot of exactly the kind of demographic we're trying to keep. I don't mean to lecture y'all. If y'all have questions, comments, Rev, if you have something, chime in. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and maybe you've already said this, but why not just develop downtown? Why create a whole new downtown when we already have a downtown?
And that's like you're feeding my next slide. Thank you. Great comment. Appreciate that.
Because this seems, I live right there, and I would love that walk.
Yep.
But that seems like a lot of money poured into an already really rich part of town.
Fair.
Might be better invested somewhere else.
Fair statement. In simple terms, I will tell you, because you can't duplicate that water anywhere else.
Well, let me ask you one more question. When you said it's going to have public access, does that mean you're going to have lifeguards who can actually get in the water?
No. Good question. Thank you.
It drives me crazy about Decree is
Yeah.
I can't access the water anywhere.
Yeah, and honestly, the way the plans are laid out now, when we talk about access to the water, we're really talking about visual access to the water. Being able to be on the water but not in the water. And even getting us on the water is going to be a real challenge because Duke Energy controls this lake and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, licenses what Duke can and can't put on there, and it's an extreme challenge to get the federal government to let you do what you want to do as a community. So that has been one of the barriers for a long time as to why can't the community just get to the lake and swim and have a beach and all that kind of stuff, is because so far the federal government and Duke have not let us.
Well, I will add though, in my Rotary, some of the guys there were saying that a lot of them were boat owners. And I thought it was a strange question, but they were saying, so you mean I can ride my boat up, park it, get out, go into a bar, get me a nice beer, and get back in my boat and go back home? And they've never been able to do that.
Yeah.
So that was something that the
they gave me that. They said all you got to do, Mick, to sell this is say to boat owners, just say you can take your boat and buy a beer. They said we'll vote for it. Well, okay, I never thought of that.
They
I don't
will
have
have
a boat. I haven't done that.
They will have access at the park to the water.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, but again, not swimming access per se. Although we do sort of have swimming access there. Illegal swimming access. I mean, people are not
that's what
supposed
they're all the
to.
time, but I know it's illegal.
No. But yeah, there is boat.
We'll talk afterwards.
Okay, so you set me up perfectly with your question about, well, what about downtown? Why just go spend all this public money out on the lake for that side of town? We feel like we have a great opportunity with the Riverwalk. We feel like we have just as great an opportunity with what we're calling the Main Avenue City Walk. Improved streets and amenities in our central business district. Again, a job growth opportunity. Corporate headquarters, we think we have an opportunity for more urban residential development and commercial. It's already happening. You all know the mills that have redeveloped along Lenore Ryan Boulevard. And we're going to walk through each of these examples here in a second. So the central business district, connecting employees to the university, to shopping, dining, services. So the $40 million sidewalk that the Hickory Daily Record has nailed us on, you know, beat us about the head and shoulders, $4,000 a linear foot, is that the term that they use? You know, that is what I'm talking about. We're not running away from that. We don't think it's going to be anywhere near $40 million, but we think that just like roads have always been important to us, more than ever, people want to walk, they want to stroll their children, they want to ride their bikes, they want to have access to the broader community without getting in a car, and especially the 20 to 44-year-olds. So we think we have a great opportunity to do that in our downtown central business district. And we think it's not just to be a nice amenity for those of us who are here. We really think it'll help grow jobs. This map, every single little yellow block there shows you either an underutilized or dilapidated building or a vacant place, a vacant lot that has the opportunity to have jobs generated in it. To be an office building, a corporate headquarters. For example, here's City Hall. That's the big empty parking lot that sits right across the street from City Hall. Why can't there be some type of a job generating opportunity right there on top of that parking lot? You know, why not? And the thing that's exciting to me is that this isn't just a bunch of city planners sitting in a room coming up with pie in the sky ideas. I studied economics, and I have a lot of faith in, for lack of a better term, most of my faith is in the Lord, but I have faith in the market too, in terms of business people are smart. And they're going to figure out how to make money, and they're not going to spend tens of millions of their own dollars doing something unless they think it's going to work. So when you have people making investments like what's already taken place in Holler and generating jobs, again, people will say, well, that's restaurant jobs. I don't care. Those are important jobs for this area. When you have John Moretz, a very smart businessman who's done really well, when he sees the opportunity to take his old building and turn it into his new corporate headquarters and bring 100 to 200 jobs, some consolidation, some new, plus shopping, plus some type of a gym or a spa. He's spending a lot of money there. I really like this example, Lyerly Mill. Do y'all know where that one is? It's right at the intersection of 127 and the bridge. First Avenue, right where the main fire department is. Okay. That building has sat there empty for a long, long time, right? And Transportation Insight is a local company already located in downtown Hickory. And when I got wind that Paul Thompson, the founder of the company, was looking to either move to Charlotte or buy property out on the interstate, and he was going to leave Hickory, I said, we can't let that happen. So we started going to Paul and pitching him different ideas. And he liked the idea of this building, among a bunch of them, and decided, you know what, I want to redevelop that mill for my corporate headquarters. But it was a lot of selling going on to convince him that he should spend his money there. And I'll tell you, you all had just seen the big Main Avenue plan. You know, it had just become public. I told Paul, I said, Paul, you got to see this in person. You got to see the way this lays out and what it would do to this property. He was discussing buying it from the owner. We had about 6 tables like this laid side by side. We had the map of our downtown. We rolled over the top of it the thin little see-through mylar where you could see all of the improvements that could be made. And it literally would go right in his front yard if he bought that building. And I saw it. You know, as a salesman, I saw it in his eyes. I knew I had it. I knew he wanted that. Because he saw that that's what his employees would want. And he hires a lot of folks straight out of App. You know, they come in with some basic business skills, and his company is what's called logistics. They basically manage shipping for other companies. That's what they do. And so he has bought that property in partnership with the city. He will have a minimum of 400 jobs there. That's the main building, but he also has bought these buildings alongside of it, and he's actually building a gymnasium right there that will be for his employees primarily, but he will also open it up to the community and to the city of Hickory, so we will have the opportunity to have practices and some games in there. He's building a soccer field behind it, which will be lit, again, for his employees, but also in partnership, the city will have access to it. That, again, that tells me that when business people see this opportunity and are willing to spend, I mean, he's on the hook for about $7 million, he'll end up spending about $10 million. Something's going on, something is working there, that we want to just keep that moving forward.
Meg, can I ask a question? What kind of jobs will they be?
His jobs, Paul's jobs, again, of course he has accounts receivable, he has kind of this typical back office types of jobs, but primarily he hires people, again, straight out of college who have a basic business degree, and they build these big complex spreadsheets and use this software that figure out trucks going here, what can I get it loaded with, to take it there, to take it back, to take it there, you know, I mean, he manages, that's what they do. They manage transportation stuff. So those are the kind of jobs. But a lot of entry-level jobs. A lot of 20-year-olds straight out of school. It's not just on that end of town either, on let's just say the LR end of town. It's also on the other end of Main Avenue. Do y'all know where the old Piedmont Wagon Building is? Not very many of y'all. That's because it's kind of at the end of the road. You forget that there's even anything out there. So think about where First Baptist is and keep going west. Okay? And there's a lot of empty buildings over there. There's a lot of torn down buildings. We just helped tear down a building the city did a couple of years ago. Well, the Piedmont Wagon Building is a great historic facility in the city. One of our very, very first manufacturing places. They literally made wagons there. Was the biggest employer in Catawba County for a long time. That was bought by another company called Cornerstone United. The city helped them with a grant to buy that, and they're turning that into their corporate headquarters. 45 to 75 jobs. It'll be more than that. They always lowball us when they sign contracts with us to get our grants. They always end up doing much more than that. We got to figure out how to work this thermostat, don't we?
It's locked.
Yeah, it's low.
Okay. Let's go see if we can find the key.
I just figured this was the city's way of saving money.
It may be.
It's after
At a certain
5.
time, it cuts off
Yeah.
after 5. That's probably true. It's probably on one of those electronic devices. So the point here is that we think we can take this opportunity and stretch it all the way down Main Avenue and really through our whole core central business district. We think it started kind of at the college and at Lenore Ryan and right there, but we think it can continue all the way down through kind of the heart of the business district. But it's also not just about redoing old buildings. Sometimes you just got to tear it down. Y'all know the old Regency Hotel, right? So that was bought about 3 years ago. The city gave the owner a grant to tear it down. Okay, so we put about $30,000 into tearing that building down. So exciting that now a neighborhood Walmart, I called it the wrong name, Walmart Neighborhood Center. So it's basically the grocery store part of the Walmart is being built there. I mean, for how many years have we all wrung our hands about not having a grocery store downtown? I mean, since the old AMP closed. Now we have one. You know, that is exciting. And you know what? That's jobs. Again, people will kind of, you know, raise their eyebrows or crinkle up their nose about grocery store jobs. If you've got a job in a grocery store, that's important to you.
So there's no pharmacy?
Huh?
There's no pharmacy in this one?
I don't know, Susan. I don't know if it's a pharmacy or not.
It's got a gas station.
Yeah, and a gas station kind of out front.
You think it does have a pharmacy?
Yeah, I think they do.
Oh, that'd
I
be
think they do
awesome.
have a pharmacy.
Yeah.
I've only been in one. I mean, this is the first one to come to our area. I was in one in another community not too long ago, just kind of checking it out, see what it's like. Okay, so does that answer your question about the downtown opportunity? So just to kind of recap, we think we have a great opportunity out at the lake to do the next generation of retail and residential and what people will, they call it a lifestyle shopping, lifestyle centers. Those are growing all over the place. We think we have an opportunity there. I've just explained kind of what we see as our downtown opportunity for service jobs, for back office jobs, and headquarter jobs, etc. But really, our entire street network is wearing out. Now, City Council, I need to make sure and clarify. City Council is right now considering my recommendation of the increased property tax by 1 penny to repave. That's stuff we already have, okay? That's just repaving, that's the surface that's old and we're only repaving on average every 60 years. We got to cut that in half. What I'm really talking about here, though, is looking at all of our major thoroughfares throughout the city and recognizing that they are no longer competitive. When you go to other communities, you don't see streets that look as rough as ours do. I'm just being frank about it. It hurts my feelings to say it, but that's true. You have in other cities streets that look more like this. Now, there's lots of good little planning terms for it. I like to just look at it and say, we're selling this city. We're selling it to our residents. We're selling it to businesses we hope to bring here and people we hope to bring here. When you go to sell your house, you got to have curb appeal, right? Realtors will tell you that. That's when you spruce up your yard. That's when you trim your plants. That's when you take care of stuff. You paint it, whatever, so that when the realtor drives up with that couple, and it's always if it's a husband-wife type of couple, it's always the woman who jumps out and says, "Ooh, I like this." I've done that. We've all done that, right? Well, we've got to have curb appeal in Hickory. As people come to our community, whether it's to visit, visit family, to come, if we're recruiting industry, and they drive around our city, we can't be a town that looks like we don't care about ourselves. It still has the same kind of streets and the same kind of infrastructure we've had for 30 years. We're not competitive. Susan.
I appreciate that 6th Avenue Southwest was recently repaved because that's the street I live on. And but there aren't always sidewalks.
Yep.
There's some sections that don't have the sidewalk. And if this development happens, it's going to be coming very close to the Green Park neighborhood if you're going down Main Avenue,
That's right? Yeah.
Is there any plans for completing sidewalk construction in the neighborhoods close to this? Because people will want to walk from their homes to what's going on. And
The whole street concept is about pedestrian and vehicular friendly. Okay, so that's my broad answer. Because all we have so far is basically identifying what are our major thoroughfares. We will have to go back in if the bonds pass and the funds are there to do it and do just what you're saying. Then you got to really get down to the nitty-gritty and say, okay, where are you going to do sidewalks? Where are you going to replace your wires that are holding your street lights and replace that with mast arms and things like that? We're not there yet. Okay, fair question though. But yeah, it obviously feeds into the neighborhoods. That's where people are coming from.
Even to come from I-40 to come downtown, got to turn and it's not conducive.
And that's a perfect segue to a piece I keep skipping over, and that's what the committee called gateways. They said, we also don't do a good job of getting people into town, and we don't do a good job as people are just riding through our city on I-40 and 321 of saying, you are now in Hickory. This is a place. And, by the way, if you want to come shop, dine, whatever, having better what they call wayfinding in the industry, ability to get yourself around, better signage. And the mayor always tells me, don't use that term signage, because he still signs. He doesn't think signs are, people don't necessarily always like signs. Sometimes they're cluttered, whatever. But that is what we're talking about, is being able to get people in and out and to have current, competitive streets all over the city.
I mean, that's a huge impediment to me.
are you saying because the interstate is so far from the central?
If you're going to come downtown, you're on Lenore Ryan Boulevard, what do? You got to eventually turn.
Yeah.
And it's not clear where to turn.
You can't get there from here, right? That's people in Newton can't get to Hickory. Gosh, my daughter-in-law.
To say nothing of why in the world do we not have streets with names?
Man, I'm not going to the name.
Somebody asked me, like, where's the whole story? When there were 10 roads in town, that was helpful.
This is hot out there. Yes, sir.
This is my second time sitting, but when I saw it the first time I wrote it, I got excited about the opportunities. And I went home and I prayed about it. I was involved with the rail system that came to Charlotte before I came, and we were trying to get that rail system. We was trying to connect South Charlotte, Matthew to Mint Hill with downtown, same thing. Yep. And one thing that we, the ministers in that community, did was saying that even though we build up and do all this stuff, we don't want to overlook, because Hickory has a much larger tent community, homeless community. Yep. But Charlotte has what we call it back then, but they like panhandlers.
Transient.
Downtown, immediately downtown. One question kept coming up was, if we're going to increase all this and bring, Charlotte was bringing like New York and D.C. what they was talking in Atlanta, so they was bringing uptown townhouses and building a lot of them. They brought the arts institution in as well. Right. So now you got people walking around downtown again. They didn't want to be dealing with the panhandlers. And so we kept saying, yeah, but they're part of the city. How do you build and include them? And I know we've been talking about some stuff that's been going on with veterans, so some things going on with veterans and that idea of having them close downtown where they're at now. How then are we going to have this walkway, this bikeway, and all of that? How are we still going to be able to include them so they can feel a part? Although no real business owner wants what they call independence around their business, they think it hurts their business. But the reality is every major city, they're always there.
Sure they are.
And so how do we then, that's the only thing I kept saying, what can I, kept asking, what do I think, what I think, what can I think? And I was thinking about that part. Because as a minister, I think about every citizen. As a minister, I'm concerned about every from the least of these, my brother. Now, I don't care what they're doing. If you're out there selling drugs, I'm going to tell them he's sinning. But I'm still going to pray for them. And that's my thing. I'm going to love everybody. As a minister, I have responsibility to the word, but I also have responsibility to make sure all of our citizens. And I always say that because he got a couple of signs. The one sign they do have when you come in is an all-American city. That always impressed me when I came here. You're all-American city. Coming from Asheville and then coming out of Charlotte, I'm saying, okay. Because we was talking at one time before, and I said, we don't have a skyline. Every major city I went to that was growing has a skyline. Hickory doesn't have a skyline. So if we're going to do something downtown to bring people in, they want to see the skyline that says city to them. You know, and so I guess that'd be my own thing in this plan. How do we deal with that part, that element?
And does that mean, or is there any idea if another building has been found for Grace House for one thing? And then the soup kitchen, do you know where they're going to relocate? Because I know they're doing a capital campaign.
I know what their plan is.
Where, is it going to be close to this?
Yep.
Okay. So
they're basically just moving down, you know, the old Social Security building, the old, that's what they're looking at. That's where they're looking to go. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody recognizes that you got to be clustered together so that people can receive the services they need in the central area.
Do you know if there's been another building identified for Grace House? No.
I don't know. I've heard a lot of conversations, but I don't know what the ultimate plan is.
I know it would probably be somewhere in there where the soup kitchen's going to be, where CCMA is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, definitely. There's no point in having it in an outlying area because then no one can get to it. Yeah. So it's.
But I just was thinking about that. That was on my mind.
Yeah, no, that's
I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about the number of jobs that's coming. I've been in a city where a lot of 20, 30 people live, where they come. First thing my son said to me, he just graduated on the 19th with his master's degree from Wake Forest. I said, boy, you come to Hickory. Daddy, I ain't coming to Hickory. Yeah. I said, I know you never went there, son. You left Charlotte, went straight to Chapel Hill, and you went straight there, but you would come to Hickory and spend the hard day. What's in Hickory? But he kept asking. I said, I got some new stuff coming, some new stuff for your age. And the baby boy actually had to come, and he graduated from me. He said, Daddy, if I do anything, I'm going back to Charlotte. Charlotte's my home. Yeah. Because they got that. That's right. They got those outlets. They got to have those things. So I was excited because as I was sharing with Hank, the same thing happens to the city, happens to the church. If all you got is senior members, when they die, there's no more church. Yep. You got to have that next generation. You got to have them babies coming along. You got to do something for that next generation.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
I notice you're doing a lot in the major, larger communities. But what do you have planned that will benefit the black community? I know up around the river that's important. For a long time, and I remember the days, you did a lot to keep us boxed in. Now, what are you going to do to help us? You have to be intentional. You can't just let it slide over the hill. If you do anything, you got to be intentional about doing it.
Well, let me answer that two ways. First of all, I think that jobs are colorblind, I hope. When we bring jobs, those jobs are beneficial to everyone.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm talking about the community itself. Yeah, I agree with you if you got jobs, but what about the community?
Well, this, and I'm being real honest, what we have looked at is what do we got to do to improve our economy. Now, I know there's going to be people who say, well, wait, Mick, what are you doing for the neighborhoods? You know, I mean, you're not doing anything for the neighborhoods. This plan isn't designed to be a neighborhood-specific plan. It's designed to be, how do we bring jobs here?
I understand that. You're missing my point. My point is that for years and years, you kept us boxed in. Now, what are you going to do to help us by spending some of that money in the African-American community?
Well, I think it goes back to that original slide we had with all the different 6 blocks. Training opportunities, you know, matching our workforce, I think that's important. I think some of that can be located in this community. Some, you know, I mean, the community college and others partner well with us to do that.
Well, excuse me, Dr. But for me, when you talking about those gateways connect, here's Ridgeview. There's 70, there's 40, there's 321, there's a new Walmart. If we had a development plan similar to what you're doing to bring that in closer to this area, what he's saying, how do we, because this really is in between what you really want to do. If you think about it, you think about downtown, Ridgeview, and then 70, this is really prime area.
It is.
That's
exactly right.
I think, if I'm wrong.
And so you look at the Ridgeview neighborhood, let's just take Ridgeview specifically, okay? And you say, okay, what are the assets that can help Ridgeview, all right? And your biggest one is Highway 70. And for years, we've been sitting here like this with our fingers crossed that Highway 70 just doesn't implode, meaning every building out there is vacant, you know, and then we got a major disaster on our hands. What we feel like can happen with 321, especially 321, is that as we make improvements on Highway 70, you get new restaurants, you get new businesses. I really think that there's two wins in this way, in this thing, in terms of how do you open up the whole city. And I'm not trying to talk in such vague generalities that I can, you know, be a politician and answer everybody yes. But I think there's a couple realities. First of all, I think the younger generation does a lot better in dealing with race issues and getting along and working together and having a diverse community. Okay? Now y'all might disagree with me, but I think every generation has gotten better and better at that. Okay? So as you open up the overall community, whether it's with jobs, whether it's with people being able to easily move through neighborhoods back and forth and interact with each other, you know, a lot of those old stereotypes and issues are gone. You know, nobody gets hung up on that anymore. But I think it's also an economic issue that when you get businesses who will locate on that Highway 70 corridor, then people are coming to shop, people are coming to have, you know, entertainment, and they're connected to the downtown. And they can walk, and you can easily have, you know, all these corridors back and forth between the downtown and 70, which is all of these neighborhoods, Green Park, Ridgeview, I mean, all of them that kind of bring the downtown and get the same type of benefit.
You're saying 70 Southwest?
Yes, 70 Southwest. So say from 321 over to 4th, that's kind of, you know, a little bit further. So basically that's where the Walmart will be, is on 4th, the Walmart neighborhood center.
Okay.
The Catawba Mall is Scout City
situation
too.
Yeah, the Catawba Mall has been sold, which, you know, I'm not 100% certain it's the best use. U-Haul has bought it. I'm not going to say they're going to generate a lot of jobs. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to use it. It's going to be some kind of a storage area, storage and trucking.
We noticed there's a lot of trucks out there.
You know, it's an odd kind of use, but it's a heck of a lot better than it being sitting out there going dark. Sky City, you know, I mean, I think there's a lot of undervalued properties and opportunities for development. That as we make the improvements we're talking about, it's just like has happened with the old mills that, you know, 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, someone looked at that and said, ain't nobody's ever going to buy that, you might as well tear it down. And now people are spending their money and buying it and creating jobs there. I think we'll get the same kinds of opportunities. But that's not to say that the city doesn't still have to have an aggressive plan in neighborhoods. Okay, we recognize this doesn't solve all the issues with the more recreation amenities that are needed. You know, more opportunities for after-school programming. I mean, we realize those are all components of it. But it's kind of like if you don't solve the job issue and the population issue, then, you know, you're going to never be able to solve all those other issues because you haven't gotten the wheel spinning the other way so that when the kid gets the education, he can get a job. He can be here, you know, whether it's our grandkids or someone else.
Have you had any discussions with Greenway about the bus routes, incorporating some of the new development? So some people get jobs who need to ride the bus to work and back. Would they be able to? Because I don't think the buses go in this area.
They will.
Okay.
I mean, we have, you know, those are great questions. They're all kind of the next steps, the next generation of, okay, now you're actually going to start doing this stuff. You got to plan out the pieces and make it all work together. Absolutely.
I'll make one more comment and I'll let it alone because you listen. Yeah, any city you want to go in, where there's a major thoroughfare, it comes through the black community. And many of those streets that you cut off, black folk can't even get into that major thoroughfare because they're cut off. Take Hickory, you can look at either one of them. That's what happened.
It's like 127, just
That's
big,
exactly what I'm talking about.
almost impossible to cross. Yep. Well, that's what I'm talking about in terms of how do you make that pedestrian friendly? How do you make it so that the neighbors between the two neighborhoods
Yeah,
can
but what
cross
I'm saying is
127?
this, you have intentionally done that. Now what are you going to do to help us get it together? Yeah, you did it. We haven't been on the planning board.
Okay. Well, when you say you did it, I didn't do it.
Okay.
I mean,
You know,
the collective view is, but the collective view is, But now, to your point, I get that. You got these major thoroughfares that are now only carrying traffic. They got to be able to carry people going across it. Young lady scared me as I was driving down 127 right through here a week ago because I barely saw her. That's a dangerous road. Good discussion. Thank you. Good questions, comments. All right, so let's talk about kind of the fourth leg of our stool there, and that's a new business park. So this is brand spanking new. This is why I was late getting here, because I was with the county commissioners, not explaining, but answering their questions and discussing with them a new business park. Let me tell you a little bit about the name, 1764, where that comes from. When we first started looking at this piece of property, and this is just a little bit less than 200 acres, has the potential to add another 100 acres, so we're hoping it'll ultimately be a 300-acre business park. We did the research on the land as we were doing title work, and it actually goes back to a land grant from King George III in 1764. We thought, man, that's cool. It tells a lot about the history of this community, so we want to keep that in the name. But what we're talking about is a Class A business park, which one does not exist in western North Carolina right now. Let me tell you where I'm talking about. This is Robinwood Road. This is Robinson Road. So CVCC sits about right here. Catawba Valley Boulevard about right there. And for Chief Atkins, Krispy Kreme. So do y'all know where I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, now you do.
Yeah, see? So it's the Lutz family farm that's been out there and in their family, obviously, for generations. It's got big water lines running down both of those roads. It's got a major sewer line running down the bottom of it. It's got major power running up here on Catawba Valley Boulevard. Great access to I-40, CVCC for training. You couldn't ask for a better opportunity for a business park. Now, obviously the people who live around it may not like the idea of there being, jobs and people in here. So it has to be rezoned. The county will have to do that. That's part of why I was there meeting with the county commissioners. But we really feel like we do well in this community with manufacturing. We always have. Manufacturing has changed. We feel like we've got a good shot to grow advanced manufacturing. A couple of examples come to mind, a company called TurboTech and another company called Turbo Coating, both of which we've been able to recruit to Hickory in the last 3 years. They make things, they spray polymerized coverings on things, very sophisticated stuff, but it is manufacturing. They are handling and producing things. And they love our workforce. They say, yeah, you got good people. They're hard-working people. Train them to how to use our equipment, we're off and running. You broaden out from Hickory and you got the same kind of thing going on with Getrag down in Maiden. We feel like we can fill this park up over time with advanced manufacturing and have anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 jobs generated out there. That's a brand new opportunity for the city and the county. Any comments or questions about that?
Is there any chance that while this is being planned and these companies are being recruited, that some of us could have a voice in saying, in your policies about hiring, can you become more reasonable about hiring people who have criminal records? And some places have completely banned the box. They take the box off the application completely, so that it's only considered if you are going to be offered the job, then they ask the question. It's not even on there. Other companies have just changed their policies and said, it can't be a felony less than 7 years old. It can't be related to the job you're going to be hired for. It can't be, there are a lot of different ways to do it. Just to have something more reasonable to give people another chance to get back in the workforce. Because you have a lot of people in this area that have misdemeanors, really fairly minor. things on their criminal records, you just totally, lock them out. And then people who have more serious problems, any felonies, even if they're old, even if they're 20 years old, no matter how many jobs come, if they have those kind of policies, a lot of people who are here won't get them. And it's a good time to talk about, can we revision who is employable? And I for one, we'd like to be part of that discussion. Because if you look at other counties, cities, states around the country, they are definitely making progress on that so that the employers have some model to go by. Because if you just say that to a person who's bringing a business in with 200 jobs, wow, my policy already says so-and-so. But, if you look at, this metropolitan area or this community and this employer, particularly Target, they just took the box off the application. There are models to go by where either you don't have to completely ban the box, you can just make it more reasonable. You just have some standards. You just have to, meet these standards even if you have something on your record, as long as it's been this long, as long as you, prove what you've done with yourself since these things happen. Because it's so exciting to think about it, but then I just know how many people are already locked out. If we don't, in some way, become a little bit more open-minded and reasonable about giving people another chance.
That's a good discussion this community needs to have. You're right. You're absolutely right.
We'll come. Invite us.
And the timing is, the timing is good to have that discussion.
I'll be there.
So those are kind of the four legs of our stool, and let's talk a little bit about now what are the public investments. So when you talk about this regional waterfront destination, it would be roads, it would be utilities, it would be this river walk I talked about. I've had to tell people, I'm talking about a fishing trail, we already got those out there. I'm talking about something lit, I'm talking something concrete, something wood, something, that you can ride bikes on, walk on, stroll on, something of substance. In the Central Business District, the same thing, the city walk being something of substance, something you see in other communities, street improvements, common areas. The business park, obviously roads and utilities, berms, entrances. Business parks are a lot like neighborhoods. You've got to have some things built, some things there to start selling houses. Same thing with businesses. You've got to have some stuff there. You can't just show people, oh yeah, there's a green field out here. You go out and knock yourself out. They ain't going to call you back because your competitors have got more than that. That's where they'll go. And then when you look about all around the city, we're talking all of these street improvements. And I'll be frank with you, I have wondered about how much we get into the pedestrian thing, because some folks don't get the pedestrian thing. And they think it's a waste of money. But when you go to other communities, that's what they want. They want people to be able to walk. They want to be able to access the shopping and everything without getting in their car. So it'll be interesting to see how the community responds to that discussion as we keep moving forward. So a range of public investments. How do we pay for these public investments, we as the community? Obviously, grants will be a piece of it. I just got a notification 2 days ago that we were successful getting a $500,000 state grant for the Transportation Insight project I was just telling you all about. I'm going to come back to city bonds in a minute. Fees. As we build infrastructure, especially when you build water and sewer lines, you charge those companies to tap onto them. That will generate some revenue. Philanthropy is a big piece of it. The Lackey donation to the city. What we think can happen is the city can go out and have a plan and say, okay, here's the Riverwalk, and we're going to build the hard stuff, okay? But the plan is going to show that, you could have a little picnic area here, you could have a river overlook here, you could have a fountain there. Go to the business community, go to private individuals, raise money, civic clubs, let them kind of put the icing on the cake. Same with the downtown city walk, same type of thing. We think that's an important part. But ultimately, when you look at where the money really gets spent, it's really businesses that spend most of the money. Going back to my example of Catawba Valley Boulevard, the city in '97 only spent $3 million on Catawba Valley Boulevard. $55 million in companies and other private investments. Pays almost $300,000 a year in property tax. Generates over $1 million a year in sales tax. Those are revenues that get invested back in the whole community. Fast forward to 2010, and there's a lot of other examples in between there, but just for simplicity's sake. Lenore Ryan Boulevard, when DOT finished that road, it was just going to be a strip of asphalt. That's all DOT does. They're done. We're walking away. They've already spent tens of millions of dollars relocating the rail line and building a new rail bridge and all that kind of stuff. So we went to city council and we said, you know, you really ought to think about putting in sidewalks, you really think about putting in some lighting, putting in some landscaping, make it look nice. So that was part of that $200,000, but also as the companies, or as you know, the mills were getting redeveloped, they needed sidewalks, they needed curb and gutters. We gave them all little grants, $30,000, $50,000 here and there, but ultimately lighting. Ultimately, we spent less than $200,000, and already there's been $18 million that they have spent, generating $90,000 in property tax payments. That seems like a pretty good investment of your public tax dollars. We think we can generate pretty good return on investment in these things we've been talking about. So let's talk a little bit about how bonds work. What are bonds? Ultimately, City Council will decide on the projects and the total cost. They're in the process of wrestling with that now. They did at their last meeting. They'll continue. Lots of discussion about that. Ultimately, I think they're going to steer toward a November 4th bond referendum. So, City can't just go out and borrow money against the full faith and taxing authority of the city without voter approval. You can borrow money against a building. You can borrow money, well, that's about it. There's not a lot. You can borrow money against police cars. I mean, you can kind of mortgage stuff and borrow that way. But to do big projects that are citywide like this, you know, I mean, philosophically, you ought to ask your residents, do they want to do it? You ought to ask them, let them vote for it. But the law requires them to do it too. Okay, so you're gonna almost have to have a resolution or a bond referendum to make it happen. Bonds are paid with property tax. People don't like increased property taxes in Catawba County for some reason. I don't know, other places they raise taxes all the time and nobody freaks out. Not here. Well, that's okay. I've lived here my whole adult life. I kind of like that too. But we got to be honest with people. You're going to have more property tax to pay that back. You have between 7 and 10 years to make those investments, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. And City Council, as the Mayor likes to point out, they could make a commitment that, hey, when these bonds are paid off, we'll lower your taxes. All right, so let's use an example. The average home in the city of Hickory is $150,000. Now, to tell you why all of this is important, and going back to my first slides, and Warren Wood's been talking about this in budget presentations, and I have too. The county is revaluing property right now. They're looking at what is property actually selling for versus what is the tax value. And guess what's happening? People are selling property less than tax value. I never thought I would see that in this community. Never thought I would see that. So what that means is the county is going to have to drop tax values. So the $150,000 house next year is only going to be worth $140,000 on tax value. It's a downward spiral, folks. The year after that, it could be, 4 years after that, it could be worth 130 and 110. I mean, we're in that death spiral of a community, if you will.
A larger part of your property tax revenues are coming from residential versus industrial and commercial.
That is exactly right. Back in the day, back in the heyday, we could do everything for free for our residents. Trash collection free, everything free. Why? Because we were picking up so much property tax from all these businesses and industries. Over time, we've had to keep shifting that cost to the residents because the business and industry is gone. First, their equipment gets moved out. They're not paying property tax on those machines anymore. They're gone. They sold them. Then the building falls apart. It has no value. They're not paying property tax on the building. I mean, that's exactly what happens. So, if you're an investor in terms of your home, and for most of it, that's the biggest investment we ever make in our lives is our homes. You got an interest in that going from 150 to 152 to 154 to 155. I mean, that's what you want to have happen. Now, I'll tell you a quick little story. I'm sorry, I'm going on too long. When I first made this presentation to a group of neighborhood college graduates. So these are people who've gone through the city's 10-week program. They know a lot about the city. They've met all the department heads. Great citizens, super citizens I like to call them, really engaged. Had about 30 of them in there, and I was watching this one old gentleman who I'd met. He just graduated last year, and he was sitting in the front row, and he was like this, and he was kind of hunkered down, and I was watching his body language. I was thinking, I am not getting through at all. He is not having any of this, And so as I finished, he looks at me and he says, Mr. Berry, he says, you're asking me to pay taxes on things that I may never live to see all that good stuff happen. And I don't think I want to pay those taxes. That's fair. I understand that. But before I could answer him, a doctor who was sitting next to him, she turned to him and she said, "Sir, how am I going to recruit a new nurse to take care of you?" That was better than my answer. I mean, she was spot on. She was serious. She was right then trying to hire a nurse, was having a hard time getting a nurse. But, so the business answer is, well, sir, when you or your estate sells your property, would you not like it to be worth more than it's worth today instead of less? Now, that's the business answer. The more philosophical issue is, you know what? We all were given a community that we live in. And I feel like, as the city manager, I was given a great community that I love. Raised my family here. Think this is a great place. I don't want to hand it to the next generation going down the tubes. I want to hand to the next generation the same kind of thing I got handed. Something great, something wonderful, something that's building and growing and thriving. So that's kind of the philosophical piece. And it doesn't take much of a bump on your $150,000 house before you start getting this back. Okay, so if the city were to choose to ask the voters, and it got approved, to borrow $40 million, that average home would pay $10 more a month. If they go for 30, it's $750. If they go for 20, it's $5 more a month. I understand. Times are tough. Some people are on fixed incomes. We understand that. I mean, it's not there's no free lunch. But it also doesn't happen the first year. The way bonds will work is the city can't spend $40 million in a year. It's going to take us at least 7 years and maybe a little longer to actually make all those investments. You got to do engineering, you got to do design, you got to buy right of way, you got to do a lot of stuff. So let's just use an example. Say they borrowed 40, or they got voter approval to borrow 40, and the first year they said, okay, we're going to borrow $10 million. That means that first year they only raise property tax by $250 a month. It's going to take you a couple of years to spend that $10 million to make those investments. Year 3, you borrow 10. So you see how it actually steps up, and it's 7 years before they're paying the full $10 a month. And our hope is that sales tax is increasing, property tax is increasing, things are happening. The tax base is rising, then you're generating more revenue off the property tax, and you may never have to get to $10 a month. But the law requires us to be completely open and say, hey, worst case scenario, this is what it's going to be. Any questions about that? Have I explained it in a way you think that makes sense to folks? Whether you agree with it or not. Does it make sense? Did I leave anything out? Okay.
I have just one quick question, and then we all want to go. The community's going to have an opportunity to vote on the bonds. Do we get an opportunity to vote on, or is it just the city council that's going to decide which comes first? You know, like you can't build everything, and sometimes you only get to build one of the things that you want, and so...
That's a great question, and we haven't really got to how to answer that yet. So what city council will do, and what will be on the bond will be very big and broad. Okay, it might just be 2 categories.
Yes, sir.
It might be business parks type of stuff, and transportation, which includes all the, the river walk, the city walk, the sidewalks, all the transportation stuff. It may just be those 2 things, and let's just say it's $20 million each. When the voters authorize that, that's what you've authorized. Then it's really up to the city council to decide, now, how do we go about prioritizing all the projects that fall under each of those $20 million? They could have committees working on it. They could do, lots of different things to engage the community and saying, all right, thanks for passing the bonds. It's exciting now. Where do we start? Yes, sir.
You don't have to answer this, but I want you to think about it.
Okay.
You're going to spend that money up there on the river walk. How much are you going to spend? How much are you going to spend in this community? Just think about that.
Fair question, yeah.
I mean, it sounds good up there, but what happens in this community?
Fair question. And you can
And
say
Bruce has that solid questions for Springs Road.
Yeah, Springs Road, we've heard the same thing. And I don't want to come across as saying, well, why are you spending the money up there on that river walk because it's Northwest Hickory? I think to me the answer is I'm trying to figure out how do we create more jobs and sales tax and growth in this community. And you got Highway 321 and you got a river. You can do something around there.
I agree, but if you spend some money here, it will generate money too if you get to whatever you do here.
That's why I was asking the question, because downtown, like if I could choose and say I want to pick the downtown project, or I want to pick the business park project, or I want to pick the Riverwalk project, They're kind of distinct projects.
Yes, they are.
And that's why I was wondering if the bond would allow us to say which of those projects would we want to start with if we could choose.
Hit on 321 Bridge too.
And yeah, so, and the answer is probably not. It's not. I've never seen a bond referendum that's that specific.
Okay.
They're all just general. Yep.
And like I said, this is my second time seeing this and hearing this man and hearing these questions, which was a totally different set of questions from the Rotary Group. And that particular Rotary Group was affluent people who lived out there on that golf course and stuff. So their concerns were different from now coming over here and hearing this. And I was on that Brown Summit thing when I first came here. It was on that Brown Summit, and we had like phase 1, 2, and 3. And my mind is thinking as Reverend Holland was talking, maybe we need, and to go back to what Reverend Sue, that's my homegirl, Carla, we went to high school together. What she's saying too, and that is I'm thinking that maybe we need to have a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3. And in that, it may be that when you're doing your bond, the bond specifies how much is going to go to each phase, right, which can include all of the development. I'm just throwing out something right now. And then the other part of that too is that as he was talking, I was thinking, man, I need you to come and do this presentation to my church.
Sure.
So that when it comes time to vote, they'll be more clear on what they're voting on.
Yep.
I can't explain it like you just did. I don't have nobody to put together a slide program like that. So I don't have all that. You know, I don't even know if she has to take pictures and she got graphic design. I don't know what she did to put that together, but I don't have all that. So I would need for you to come so that my people can hear directly. Yep. I think one of the biggest problems for us was Reverend Holland saying a lot of times our people get second hand and they're not really fully educated on what they depend on us as pastors to always do it. But that's not my expertise. Sure. I would rather you come and then they can have questions like Reverend Holland did, because I'm relatively new to this community. There's people in my church that have been there for 90 years. Yep. And like he's saying, they may have an understanding of what that box is that he's talking about. Yep. That can say, well, what about this? What about that? I know when we was talking about closing the pool, and we talked about some things, and we talked about, I was thinking about the little parks and sprinkler systems, thinking like, wow, your eyes lit up. It never did happen. You're like, man, that might have been an alternative. We were talking about getting those little sprinkles in the parks and stuff that they're doing in Charlotte and some other places. You're like, maybe we could have did that. We hadn't done anything, just closed it up. So what I'm saying is that listen at this, because I told you I got excited about it. I'm excited about opportunities coming to this area. I'm excited about bringing young folks. If a city's going to grow, you got to have that 25, 40-year age group. You just have to have it. And you got to have those guys coming out of college with those entry-level degrees if your community is going to grow. I recognize it. We just did that in Charlotte. Like I said, we're putting in rail system. I was a part of that, putting that rail system in Charlotte. So I'm excited about it. But they brought some questions up that we didn't get at the other one. And I think good questions too. That we might look at a phase 1 or 2. And I think maybe a Holland, or like she was saying, dealing with the prisoners and stuff like that in terms of who's going to be employed. I think all that. I think that's. I hope we're helping you.
Oh, you are. Yeah, absolutely.
That you can do
that's a big part of getting out into the community and having these citizens briefings, so we can tell you what we're working on, but then we can. I mean, y'all are why we work, to serve the community. So we need that feedback and figuring out how to keep moving forward. Yes, ma'am.
At what point do you get a rating?
Do you get a bond rating? Man, that's a great question. You get a bond rating right after the resolution, right after the bonds are approved by the voters. Okay, or right about that same time. You've got to be rated by the agencies. We know we have a AA plus bond rating right now, which is about as good as you can get for a city our size. We have no debt. We're in good financial shape. But you get that bond rating about that same time because you have to disclose, okay, here's how much interest you're going to have to pay over the life of these bonds. The taxpayers are going to have to pay this interest. Here's how much it's going to be. Great question. And then the bonds are actually sold to investors, and that's who came back.
But there's some things that just morally right. Morally right.
That's true. That is true.
Well, in theory, if you did all this, you would employ a lot of people just building.
Yeah.
You could hire some people in Hickory and bring them all in.
Yeah, that's tough because state law requires us to just bid it. It's got to take the lowest bidder, and it doesn't matter where they're from. One other point to Reverend Roberts' comment about us going out and making these presentations is the city and the city staff cannot actively promote the bond referendum, okay? So the reason Andrea and I are out making these presentations all over the city is to educate people on what's coming. And City Council has not formally said they're going to move forward with bonds yet. So we're kind of in this free time that we can go out and interact with people and no one's going to accuse us as, oh yeah, city manager's out promoting those bonds. The plan is on June 17th for City Council to actually take the first step, which is adopting a resolution saying, yep, we're going to move forward with the bond referendum. When they do that, I'm kind of tagged out. I can still do presentations, but I can't be as salesy. I admit, man, I mean, I've been working on this stuff for 5 years, and I'm eating, sleeping, breathing it, and, you know, it's hard for me not to be passionate about it. So I'm going to have to figure out how to tone that back. But there are other people already organized in the community that say, hey, we get this, we're excited about it. They will kind of take over, you know, the campaign part of it, and we'll be as city staff just kind of more on the sidelines answering, you know, how much will the taxes go up, how much is the rates going to cost, when does the bond rating get approved.
And when that happens, I have to coincide with Reverend Holland. You need some of us on that table.
Yes, we do. Amen.
Like you said, we hadn't been included.
Amen. Absolutely.
Said y'all.
Yeah.
Amen.
I'm wondering, I don't know you, my name is Reverend Lawson, I'm the pastor in Mount Vista, right across the street. In my life before I came to transplant to Hickory, the pastor here, I worked for the city manager and mayor of Durham.
Oh!
So been through this, been here.
Right.
Yes, you have. I was just talking about Mayor Bell and how we went to Durham and he just completely sold us on how to do this.
Actually, he walked out of his office one day and I walked in.
Is that right?
Yes. And so I've been here, done this. And one of the things that was very successful and is very successful in the city of Durham is coffees with council.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. He mentioned that to us, yeah.
It's very, very successful with taking the dog and pony show on the road, yeah, and meeting with the communities and having questions out there so for people to become informed and to come and ask questions. And that was very, very successful and helpful with promoting the bonds. So yeah, I know a little bit about that.
Yeah, you sure do. And you know how to do it successfully. Yeah. All right, so my key question is, do you live in Hickory? I know your church is here.
I do.
Oh, yes. All right, fantastic. Did you sign up on my list back there so we can keep I'm recruiting volunteers?
So two key things, and I live in Mountain View, but I pastor right here. And so I'm very concerned about this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very, 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 very concerned about, not necessarily where I live, but about this community where I serve.
Thank you. That's great. And Mayor Bell, for those of you all who do not know him, he is the kind of man that transcends everything. I mean, he really is. He is not a politician. He is a statesman. I mean, he is just an incredible visionary. And Durham was blessed to have him. I don't know that someone less talented than him could have shepherded all that through. He's an incredible guy. Awesome guy. All right. So I'm kind of concluding where we started. You know, I mean, this is where we are. Like it or not, this is where we are. And if nothing changes, nothing changes, right? We don't do some things. We just keep losing people. We keep losing jobs. Appreciate the discussion, y'all's attendance and everything. Seriously, please sign up. We're trying to stay in communication with everybody that's heard this. We're trying to get it out as broadly as we can. It's going to change and morph as City Council works on it and decides, is it 40, is it 20, what are the projects, what are the phases? Susan?
I just wanted to just say again how passionate I am, we are, about all people being able to be a part of this. And if there's any discussion, any table where we can talk about what other communities are doing to help people have another chance to get back in the workforce, you know, to be more fair and to be more reasonable. It's being done all over the country. And so while we revision ourselves this way, it would be a great time to revision ourselves in that way too. How do we give people another chance to get back in the workforce? And I know a couple of years ago, Rev and I met with Austin Allran, and we showed him models. City models, county models, state models, corporate models, how they had tweaked their policies you know, to make them more reasonable and open and a little bit more fair so that people have more of a chance to get some of these jobs. We would love to be at that table, you know, and share, not just complaining, like, well, it's just not right, you know, but actually bringing,
Right,
you know,
share some examples.
information about how other communities are doing it, and it's working.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. It needs to be a conversation that's going, there are several conversations going on all around the city that need to be happening. Absolutely. Well, thank you all. Again, apologize for running late. Hope you found it informative. And
You salesman, you.
keep moving forward. I love this place, Susan. I can't help it. Dang.
I know,
You know?
it's wonderful.